People who have been to Chernobyl, what horrible threats do you know? Investigating Chernobyl, I found that this disaster was a cover for something even more horrific. This is nothing like what you see in horror games or movies. There are no ghosts, mutants, or radioactive anomalies. And death isn't waiting for you at every corner. In fact, I think it's one of the most peaceful and beautiful places on Earth. When my friend Sasha decided to go there, he knew who to turn to. He wanted more material for his project about nuclear explosions. So we went there. The deadliest trip of my life. We were driving on dirt roads in the woods east of Pripyat when we found this place. An old rusty fence and a gate on chains blocking further passage. There was a large sign with a radiation danger symbol and the words, "Restricted area, authorized personnel only." Not far beyond the fence, in the slope of a skillfully crafted hillside, was a pair of massive metal doors. They bore the large white inscription, O-13, and at the top was written, "No entry allowed." "What do you think it is?" Sasha asked. "I don't know. It looks like some kind of bunker," I replied. Both halves of the door were welded together in the center. Sasha gathered his images. But we were too puzzled to leave. We circled around at the main entrance to try to find other ways in. The day was already coming to an end, and it was getting steadily darker. A thought occurred to me during the trains. Why would they weld the door shut? What was so important inside? That they went to this length to keep people out? "Look, there's something in there." Sasha distracted me from my thoughts. It was a concrete block several meters in size with vents on the sides. Looking into the vents there, I managed to see that they too were sealed with heavy steel hatches, and it was impossible to open them. However, there was also a smaller door, labeled as a service tunnel, with a large vent to the outside. But it eventually toppled out of place. The door opened, I tugged, and it slowly began to open. Behind the door appeared a small platform and a narrow vertical tunnel with a staircase. What caught my attention was that there was the same locking mechanism inside. This meant that they could have locked the door from both sides. But why? We were lucky, because if they had locked it from the inside as well, getting inside would have been impossible. I stepped inside and dedicated a phone flashlight into the shaft. It wasn't strong enough to shine down to the bottom. The bucket was damp and old, and it smelled of something I couldn't identify. A very faint chemical odor. There was no radiation or any sign of other impressions. "You must be frying it. It's so cool. We should come back here and check it out later," said Sasha. What couldn't I disagree with? It was almost dark, so we sealed the door and that was the end of it. But we promised to come back. When I got home, I immediately tried to put on a humble brag. Unfortunately, to no avail. I wrote to my friend Pasha about it, and he said he would see and ask. A week later, we gathered consents and set out on the road. We took with us rope, heavy flashlights, glow sticks, geigers, waterproof protective clothing, an oxygen geiger, and a small emergency scuba tank, just in case. We told family and friends about our trip and when we were going to return. Once down the shaft, we closed the door behind us. Walking down the tunnel, we reached another door, but this time it was a regular door, not heavy like the one in the bunker. Here was a simple map with a floor-by-floor order of the facility. We were on floor 0 in the main lobby, floor -1, security and recreation offices, floor -2, secret laboratories, floor -3, gas pedal room, decontamination chamber, floor -4. The map called Facility 13. It wasn't a military bunker, it was an ordnance. We went down the elevator because the elevators were directly without electricity. I stepped onto the next step, but something rolled under my foot. I lost my balance and fell on my back. My backpack luckily withstood the impact. I looked under my feet to see what had caused my fall. Empty shell casings. That wasn't the only reason I felt strange in this place. As soon as we descended to the -1 level, I met that the entire door was open, all the way down. At the beginning of the long, rectangular hallway was the kitchenette. Sasha called out from the kitchen on the opposite side of the hallway. What was all I could say as I followed him into the kitchen room. There was still food neatly on the tables, and it wasn't disturbed. It wasn't fresh, but it wasn't decayed either, like food from 30 years ago should be. "How is this possible?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe it was irradiated or something. I really don't know," Sasha answered. He looked puzzled, and so did I. Looking back, we just turned back. There have been so many alarm bells already. Something very bad had happened out there, but we were probably very interesting. We continued on our way and descended to the -2 level. The line ended here, and to go deeper down, we had to cross the entire floor. Here there was a security checkpoint and a massive door that we had to go through to get into the lab. Again, the whole door was wide open, but the things that people had left here were not neatly organized into places. There was clutter everywhere. Every possible room was here with equipment I didn't understand. Occasionally there were empty shell casings lying on the ground. There was still a central rectangular corridor here, but the rooms around it reminded me of a small maze. Almost at the other end of the floor, we found the chief scientist's office. As I said, there was clutter everywhere, but on the desk I found a log book. There were only a few pages in it. The last few had been torn out. October 5th, 1984. Today we were able to successfully move a few atoms without changing any physical customs. It will be a long road until we can move hard objects, but we've been doing good work so far. February 21st, 1985. After animal questions, we moved our first human today. He was alive and well, an important hero of our great country. We have proven that this development works. We are still exchanging the positions of two equally massive objects. I have proposed a new type of device that would probably allow us to move just one object to one side, but it requires a large amount of energy. May 1st, 1985. Our superiors accepted my proposal. We had now moved dozens of test subjects. Every one of them is alive and well, but sometimes they are a little different. Sometimes they claim that different incidents in the past did not happen the way they actually happened. Sometimes they claim to know people they don't, or even more disturbingly, they know people they shouldn't. The following was handwritten in pencil. Questioner 28 spoke in an uncharted language, and after the experiment could not understand any of the languages that existed. Further, there were many broken pages. August 13th, 1986. We are going to try to change our approach. The second unit we built at the power plant is still new. We're going to use it for a new experiment. Who knows what wonders await us on the other side? There was only one phrase written on it over and over again. We dropped them. Sasha, I think we should leave. I picked it up. Come here, look at this, he replied. I walked out of the lab into the hallway. There were clothes lying all over the hallway. It was ripped to shreds. No bodies, no blood, just strips of woven and the occasional shoe or time. I lifted my head and stared down the dark hallway in front of us. It was as if something had ripped all these people to shreds and then collected everything but clothing and other inorganic materials. A wave of purely instinctual harm slammed into me. I couldn't move. I wasn't even breathing. Let's just get out of here, Sasha said. We turned around and walked out of here. Slowly at first, but then we quickened our steps. Our footsteps echoed throughout the underground house. I just want to get out of here, man. We didn't have to do this, Sasha said. I didn't bother telling him about the magazine, but my thoughts were cut short after a sudden realization. His voice didn't echo. It was just our footsteps. I think he realized it too because we stopped and listened. Nothing. Just silence. I stepped forward. Clang. I took another step. Clang. There was a door in front of us. I was behind Sasha, and as we passed it, I set the glass bottle I found on the ground in front of the door on the floor. I took a step forward. Silence. It's just an echo after all, I thought. A crack. The glass shattered into a trifle. Someone had opened the door. We left all of our equipment except the flashlights and ran as fast as we could. I didn't even know I could run that fast. I'd always tried to be a tough guy, but I'd never been so scared in my life. Our footsteps no longer echoed. Something was running behind us. It was getting closer and closer with each passing second. As soon as we reached the checkpoint, we started to close the door. The rusty jamb of the door stiffened in protest, but we pounced on the door as hard as we could. We were about to close it when we heard a loud, guttural, and scattered growl. The door had slammed shut. My heart was pounding so hard that for a few minutes it was all I could hear. But soon I realized it wasn't my heart. It was it pounding on the closed door. We were running again. We got to the stairs and ran up them. jumping over 2 steps at a time. The event wore us out a lot. Even though I was scared, I felt like I would lose my light if I took another step forward. Sasha sat down and leaned with his back against one of the large, vertical ventilating vents. And then we heard a rumble. We realized something. We closed everything downstairs, but we forgot about the ventilation. Sasha and I looked at each other. Our eyes met. And then the grate burst, and he was destroyed. All I heard was his scream as he was pulled downstairs again. I'm sorry I did that, but I just ran, climbed up the service shaft, and slammed the door shut when I got out of that scorcher. As soon as I had my phone bundle again, my phone started to pick from the many missed calls and messages from Pasha. Hey, Dima, I found this guy. He says he knows what O-13 is. Please pick up the phone as soon as possible. He says it's dangerous and you should stay away from this place. One more message. He's calling me now. He's serious. Call me as soon as possible. Dmitry, it's Anatoly. I know what you found, and I'm leaving Kiev now. Don't go down there. If you are already down and you manage to get out, close the door you came in through and make sure it stays locked. I'll try to call you when I'm here. And here I am, writing this while I wait. I'm doing this to make sure no one else repeats our explosions, since I don't know if I'll live long enough to tell it in person. I just can't leave Sasha. I have to go back.